Good morning again, and thank you for joining us as part of our tuition benefit summer training series. Today, we're going to talk about department coordinator logistics. And the timing is perfect because in about 10 days or so, a week and a half, 2 weeks, we'll be opening up the portal for fall entry. And I know we're all terribly excited about that. So we'll go ahead and go through the presentation, and then we'll have plenty of time at the end for your questions and concerns. So what we'll cover today is the role of the coordinator, tuition benefit allocations, entering a student, student support, running reports, tuition billing, minimum support requirements, enrollment and registration requirements for students, some considerations for fellowship offers and assistantship contracts, and tuition benefit petitions. So firstly, I hope that you will acquaint yourself, if you have not already done so, with our guidelines, gradschool.utah.edu/funding TBP guidelines. And you can view it online, or you can download the PDF. These were heavily updated in the last couple of months. We did send that out by email in case you missed it. Please come here. And for those of you who are new, the tuition benefit guidelines is our evolving procedural document that outlines eligibility as well as procedural issues. So when it comes to troubleshooting different concerns that you may have, the guidelines are often the first place that you will go to check on certain policy and procedural issues before you elevate an issue to the graduate school. This is also helpful for when working with directors of grad studies, faculty and PIs, and department and college leadership. So the role of the coordinator, regardless of what your job is in your department, whether you're the grad advisor, an admin, an accountant, or we even have some directors of grad studies or department chairs who serve the role as tuition benefit coordinator. So the responsibility as the coordinator is to enter students into the tuition benefit portal on a timely manner, routinely run and review the coordinator reports out of the portal, address any tuition benefit department and student concerns. And given that the coordinator role may vary by department, and you may be the coordinator, but someone else is managing different issues, it is your job to liaise pertinent tuition benefit concerns within the department. As mentioned, entry of benefits is one of the primary roles of the coordinator. The tuition benefit portal opens for student entry 6 weeks prior to the first day of a given semester. So you have 6 weeks before the first day of school to start entering. Every semester, I have a department chair or some directors of grad studies that come to me and say, we're having issues with insurance. Why is insurance not being why do we not have continuous coverage for our students and such? Or why are our students' benefits not being entered? They have a bill, this is causing problems. And each time that happens, I run that department's tuition benefit information for that semester, and I show this is not being entered until the first day of school or even the second week of school. And so when I mention to your departments, there are 6 weeks prior to the semester, for many directors of grad studies and department chairs, that's, oh, we had no idea. But I have coordinators telling me, well, if only the HR person would give us the information, or the director of grad studies would give us the information. So it is important for the coordinator to work within your construct, whatever that may be, to get the information you need so that you can be entering students in as early as you can. The earlier that it's entered, the sooner that the students will see it, and the sooner the students can focus on more important things like their studies rather than how they're paying for school. Okay, the portal will remain open until the campus census. So about 3 weeks into the semester approximately. The department's responsibility to have students entered into the system in a timely manner, as mentioned, and retroactive benefits are not processed. So this is something very important. If you have a student on tuition benefit, they need to be entered when the portal is open for a lot of different reasons, including tuition deadlines, add drop deadlines, and such. Okay, So now let's talk about the allocation. Those of you who've been doing this for a while, you know that this is a fairly new iteration of tuition benefit where we have limitations through an allocation. Those of you that are new, this is going to be every day for you. So tuition benefit is not an infinite resource as it may have once been. Tuition benefit dollars are allocated by the university to each college. So tuition benefit is by college, not by department. And then it is at the dean's discretion how that will be divided among the different participating departments and programs in any given college. And as a note on that, whatever the semester starts on is not necessarily final. The dean or the dean's designee can reallocate that funding throughout the year as needed to rebalance as necessary. So important here with this is when you have questions about allocation, it's go to your department, go to the dean's office. Don't come and ask the graduate school for more funding. That needs to go through your dean's office. This is what you will see at the top of your page when you are in tuition benefit. You'll see the term, whatever term report that you have ran, the academic year, and the year target amount. The year target amount is your total cap for that year, fall, spring, summer. The number of students entered, that's how many students you're supporting. And then we have actual use, estimated use, and estimated remaining. Estimated use, I'll get into that into a second. Actual use is actual resident tuition and mandatory fees charged for those students. And then the estimated remaining is year target amount minus estimated use equals estimated remaining. So some notes on this. Our system calculates a per student maximum of what tuition benefit will cover. We have these strongholds here so that you're not entering 100 students when you only have funding for 25. So this is a safeguard to help you stay within your limitations as best as we can. And so tuition benefit will cover a maximum of 12 graduate credits. So we estimate for a graduate student, how much is 12 grad credits? Other than College of Law, it is all the same. For 2022, 2023, that estimation will be $5,170. So the estimated use is, let's say you enter 10 students, 10 times 5,170 is $51,700. That's what your estimated use will be. Your actual use will be what is actually the charges of resident tuition mandatory fees. So if you have students who are only enrolling in 9 graduate credits, your estimated use will be higher than your actual use. That is very normal for your actual use to be less. The system doesn't currently prorate for 50% and 75% benefit or for the discounted PhD dissertation credits, taking that into account with these caps. We are working with UIT to come up with some solutions on this. Thank you to everyone who's provided your feedback on the allocation regarding that. We are working on this. We just don't have the solution ready to implement today. And you may encounter issues with your estimated as you are trying to enter spring and probably summer as well. When you encounter those sorts of issues where it says you don't have funding left, even though your estimated is much larger than your actual used, that's when you'll just reach out to me and we'll troubleshoot around that as necessary. It is important for you to budget your allocation. So the number that's listed as year target is for the entire year, fall, spring, and summer. Your department should look ahead at how tuition benefits going to be used during fall and spring, as well as during the summer. Some departments utilize tuition benefit during the summer, some do not. If this is something you need to look to the future strategically on, will our department really be going down this route? Will we not? As well as, are we supporting the same number of students fall as we are spring? An example of this here is if you are supporting the same number of students in the fall as you are during the spring, and your tuition benefit allocation is $250,000, you just simply split that 50-50, 125 fall, 125 spring, which is 24 to 25 students depending on their enrollment. But if you have, if you're fall heavy and spring light, let's say you have 60% of your students being supported during the fall and 40% during the spring, you'll need to do that math on what that will do with your allocation. Allocation covers resident tuition and mandatory fees for research assistants paid on university funding. So non-projects, so your GRs, not your RAs. Teaching assistants, your TAs and your GTs, and your graduate fellows, your GFs. Resident tuition and mandatory fees only. What isn't charged to that allocation is RAs who are project funded. That is charged to your F&A return to overhead. Students on XTBP, regardless of their support type, TA, GT, GR, GF, or RA, those are charged to the chart fields that you provide at the time of entry. And then non-resident tuition waivers are not charged to an allocation or the F&A return to overhead for RAs. The non-resident tuition waivers are courtesy of the University of Utah. Charges outside of resident tuition and mandatory fees. And again, mandatory fees, I get students asking this every semester, and occasionally a coordinator will bring this up. Well, my students have to pay this fee to be in my program, so it's mandatory for them. No, mandatory fees are as defined by the Office of Income Accounting on the tuition schedule. So this is like the computing fee, the transportation fee, the student health fee, etc. Those are the mandatory fees. So anything outside of that, such as differentials, international student surcharge, program specific or lab specific fees, etc. Those are not covered by tuition benefits, so they will not impact your allocation or your F&A return to overhead, or for XTBP, the chart fields that you enter into the system. Concerns over tuition benefit allocation increased needs should be directed to your dean's office. So if you have issues during the academic year, talk to them about possibility of reallocating, or at the end of the day, extended tuition benefit is an option. They can provide you a chart field for that. But you also want to work with your department leadership and working with your college dean's office on proactively identifying and anticipating your strategic growth. The president does have a very ambitious research goal, which could be affecting our enrollment in the graduate class. So as you anticipate growth in your program, that needs to be communicated to your dean's office, and that needs to be part of the annual budget request. There's a specific form for tuition benefit. Okay, now entering a student. So when you go into tuition benefit portal through CIS, this is what you will see. Choose your department. Those of you who have multiple departments, you'll need to select, otherwise you'll only have one option. Once you click into there, you will see at the top of your page, add student and print signature page. You'll click that add student, but before we do that, you'll see you also have your tuition benefit totals at the top of the page. Okay, so when you hit add student, this is what you're entering a student will look like. Student ID, you got it, that's where you put the student's unit. Extended, that box is what you will click if you are using extended tuition benefit. As a reminder, extended tuition benefit is when you have a chart filled, whether it's off a project or a grant, that will cover 100% the cost of resident tuition and mandatory fees. If you have funding that will pay for a portion, but not all of the student's tuition, that is not extended tuition benefit. Next, we have the support type, GR, GT, GF, TA, and RA. This can be a combination, whatever that might be, whether student is one support or a combination, must add up to 100%. That does not mean 100% benefit. That simply means, let's say your student is 50% GF and 50% TA. That just means 50% of their benefit is coming from being a TA and 50% of their benefit is coming from being a GF. Next, we have the plan amount. This is what determines 50%, 75%, or 100% benefit. When you put an amount in there, our system will say, okay, this is enough for 100% benefit. We will conditionally put 100% benefit on there. Or, ooh, this is not quite enough for 100%, but enough for 75% benefit, etc. And then next is the health insurance. This is the GSHIP, Graduate Student Health Insurance Program, the subsidized health insurance. Only click that if you are offering. which means that outside of TAs under 1001 fund, you have a benefit line to cover that 80% subsidization cost, and that the student has indicated that they wish to participate, which means that they agreed to the 20% premium that will be put on their tuition bill in due course. If your student says no, you do not click that. As soon as you click that, we start the continuous enrollment process. And we, as mentioned, we opened the portal up 6 weeks prior to the first day of school. We do enrollments on a weekly basis at that time to ensure continuous coverage. And then you hit save. As soon as you hit save, the student gets an email saying, you have a tuition benefit offer. Please go in, review our terms of the agreement, which is our guidelines policy that you can view on our website, and they hit approve. And that signing then allows us to post the tuition benefit because they agreed to the terms of it. When entering a student prorations, please be as accurate as possible. We do understand with that in mind that grants come and go during the semester. Grants are not granted and they do not expire necessarily on the semester line. So oftentimes we'll have students who are going to be a GR and an RA just because the grant will run out, or the grant will come in later during the semester that will cover payroll. So your student is going to be partially on like faculty startup or department funds, and then they'll go on to grant fundings as a research assistant. So enter what you are able to as accurately as you're able to in those situations. And then as you find during the semester that the prorations are often need to be fixed, simply email me and I can change that on the back end, no problem at all. Student support. So let's take a minute to talk about student support here. So we have these 5 different areas of support. For our payroll, 1 is not. We have RAs, GRs, TAs, GTs, and then the graduate fellow, which is a non-work position, a non-payroll position. These are the 4 job codes that you will use, and you will only use them for tuition benefits. And as mentioned before, GR, TA, GT, these are all institutional funds on an activity. RA is on a project. When you have a student who's RA and GR, you have to have 2 separate jobs. You cannot have a split distribution for, let's say, an RA or a GR where you have both an activity and a project. You have to have 2 separate job records. For students supported on assistantships, RA, GR, TA, and GT. For federal tax purposes, so for our compliance within federal policy, the tuition benefit job codes are only to be used when a student is supported by tuition benefit on an assistantship that is related to students' educational and professional objectives. Wages only count for that student for that semester when they are earned on the appropriate job code. That is how my system captures the support, and earned during the appropriate periods. So fall support must be earned between August 16th and December 31st. Students may be supported by more than one classification. So as mentioned, the example of RA and GR, as well as RA and TA, or GF can be thrown in the mix. Students working in a limited teaching assistantship, such as 10 hours a week, and also receiving a graduate fellowship. That's another example. You can mix payroll with a fellowship. And as mentioned, fellowships other than students who are trainees, and that is a very specific classification. Those of you who have students who are trainees, you know what I'm talking about. Otherwise, GFs do not hold office hours. They do not have work requirements. However, you can require enrollment, milestone, academic performance requirements to maintain a fellowship. GRs working outside of their academic department must be approved by the graduate school each academic year. So a common example of this is a social work student who is completing a paid practicum in the counseling center. That is outside of the College of Social Work, so that would have to be approved by the graduate school. Petition for this must include the job duties and what the curricular connection must be. As we know, tuition benefit jobs are not just any sort of employment, but must have a direct job and scholarly training for that student connected to that specific program that they are in. So you'll include the duties and the curricular connection. It can be a simple email to me. Jane Doe, here's her unit, is going to be working as such and such department. Here's the basic job duties, and here's how there's a connection between that and their PhD program. Send that to me, the dean and I will review, and we will let you know the result. But this petition is required regardless of if a student was approved for that same assistantship in a previous year. You only need one approval per year, but has to be done every year if the student is continuing to work outside of their academic area. And this is also regardless of if a student is on extended tuition benefit. So there's still a tax issue that we have to be good stewards of. So traditional tuition benefit or extended tuition benefit, it's all the same there. Students may be eligible for subsidized health insurance only when they are supported by A, an assistantship, so no GFs, and B, they must be supported at the 100% benefit level, which means for this coming year, they must have payroll support of at least $83.55 a semester to be eligible for the subsidized health insurance. 50% and 75% benefit, tuition benefit are not eligible, as well as GFs. Departments must have a benefit allotment to cover the 80% subsidization, unless it is a TA who's paid off a 1001 fund, in which case there's a central benefit pool that covers that. If you have any questions on the G-SHIP, we do have a video. It is going up on our website. It has not been put up yet, but we will have that on our resource section for you to refer back to, as well as reach out to the graduate school. And these are our minimums for our current summer semester, but also the next academic year. $83.55 fall and spring for 100% benefit, $41.75 for 50% benefit, etc. As we see here, summer is less than fall and spring. The reason is this is prorated by pay periods. So during the fall and spring, there are each semester 9 pay periods. There's only 6 during the summer. So that explains that difference in amount. So back to entering a student. Again, this is the page that you see. You click Add Student. We went through this already. Enter the student's ID, click Extended if the student is on extended tuition benefit. Enter the student support prorations. Are they 100% GR or are they a mix of a few? Whatever it is, must add up to be 100%. Plan amount, how much is that student being supported by the department between assistantships and or fellowships for that semester, not the year, just that semester. And then health insurance, subsidized health insurance. A, they qualify. B, you have the allotment if necessary. And C, the student has said, yes, I want to opt in and I understand there's going to be a 20% premium. And then you hit save. When you click extended tuition benefit, this is what will happen. As soon as you indicate on a support field, GR, GT, GF, TA, RA, more than 0%, so 1% to 100%, you will see a chart filled line pop up where you'll put the chart field or chart fields to cover the resident tuition and mandatory fees. Jen Ehlers in my office did a wonderful workshop on this. We have that up on our website right now. For you and your grants officer or your accountant to go back and refer to. So it's gradschool.utah.edu, tuition benefit coordinator resources. You'll see at the top of the page, video presentations. You'll find our extended tuition benefit presentation there, as well as please reach out to us at tuitionbenefit@gradschool.utah.edu when you have an extended tuition benefit concern. Okay, so you've entered your students in. This is what your main page is going to look like. You're going to see the students listed one by one. A couple things to see here. On the far right column, you see update or delete. This allows you to go in and edit an existing record, such as the student is still going to be on tuition benefit, but I put them in as a GR, but they really need to be an RA. You can go ahead and make that change. Or I entered them with $4,200, but really we have enough funding to give them 100% benefit. So I'm going to go in and adjust that to $8,400 or whatever that might be. You can just hit that little box with the pencil coming out of it to edit that document or what have you with that. If the student needs to be deleted for whatever reason, you can hit the little trash can and that record will be deleted. In past semesters, I've seen some students added, deleted, added, deleted, added, deleted. Please only enter a student if you are as sure as you are able at that time the student is going to be on tuition benefit. We don't want students to be added, deleted, added, deleted, added, deleted, because that creates a lot of records on the PeopleSoft side and can really screw up the tuition benefit down the road. So use that delete sparingly. And then just to the left of the add or the update delete column is the signed column. This is essential. On my example here, we see check marks, which means all the students have signed. But if you see a red X, that means the student has not signed. And anytime you edit, as we mentioned, editing a record, the student will have to sign again. Pay attention to this column. No tuition benefit unless the student has signed, which means they agree to the terms and conditions of tuition benefit. This is important to keep track of because if the student has not signed by tuition deadline or after tuition deadline, they may incur late fees that tuition benefit will not cover. And depending on how long it takes for the student to sign, it could put the student at risk of having their classes dropped. So be sure to pay special attention to that column. Okay. Now we go on to the running reports, which is an essential part of the logistics to tuition benefit, not just at the beginning of the semester, but all throughout the term. It's the responsibility of you as the coordinator to run and review the reports on a regular basis. I recommend monthly that you do this. At very, very, very bare minimum, make sure that you do so at midterm. I do have some departments that the payroll reporter will review it every paycheck, just to make sure students are staying on track. Regular review ensures that you are identifying any errors for any of the students, and you'll see the error codes. We'll show you that in a minute, and that you can attend to those ASAP to proactively solve these problems before it starts impacting a student negatively. And some errors will be, this is a problem. Others will be, this is a problem right now. Should tuition benefit adjacent responsibilities be with someone else in your department, such as if you're the admin, but you don't do the EPAFs, you don't do the grad advising, and there's a problem with they're on the wrong job code or they're not on the job code or the student's not enrolled enough, it is your responsibility as the coordinator to communicate these concerns within your office as necessary if it is not your responsibility. Occasionally, I do get a coordinator who will respond to me saying, oh, I don't do that. That's someone else. You can reach out to them. No, it is the responsibility of the coordinator to coordinate that within the department. We manage 100 coordinators. We can't manage more moving pieces within departments on top of that. Okay, to run your report on the black toolbar when you get into tuition benefit portal, very cut and dry, reports. And then you will get this page, which will say, what term are you looking at? Because you can go 5 terms back. We are working with UIT to get that to be much more comprehensive of a list of terms, but right now it's 5 terms back that you can run all the way to the current semester. And then you'll select your department and then you'll hit submit. You can also download this into an Excel spreadsheet, which comes in handy if you're sharing this with others in your department, or depending on what your tracking system may be internally. So we hit submit and it generates a report in HTML. And this is what we'll see: the unit, the first and last name of the student. We see a P there, which means that the student is a doctoral student. G would mean grad student or a master's student. And then we'll see the breakdown or the prorations of the support. This student here in the example is GR. Then we'll see anticipated versus actual support. Anticipated is what you entered in to get the students their benefit on there. And we take that anticipated, and that's the amount of benefit we put on there, 50%, 75%, or 100%. The actual is going to be actual amount of payroll, actual amount of fellowships that the student has received. And we are working with UIT to get a breakdown of that. So instead of just one actual number, you'll see a breakdown as well. And then you also see the FTE. This is very, very important. No student on tuition benefit can exceed 0.74. The minute that happens, the next processing date, that benefit will be wiped off. So this is something important to monitor, and also work internally with your payroll reporters or your HR person to make sure that they understand what this is. Also, sometimes you'll have a student who is working, let's say a TA in your department, and then they might be working as a tutor in another department. So this FTE is not just your assistantship, it's any and all employment under the umbrella of the University of Utah, which includes the hospital and clinics, athletics, Huntsman Cancer Institute, Huntsman Mental Health Institute, downtown neighborhood partners, etc. Anything under the University of Utah umbrella. Okay, and then at the bottom here, you will see error messages. This is what you'll want to be paying attention to and keep track of. Here on this particular example, we see insufficient credit hours and tuition benefit term count exceeded. So 2 reasons why the student's benefit has not posted. And then the rest of the line shows the enrollment. Ensure that the grad credits are, ideally it's 9 grad credits, but occasionally this might be some undergrad credits in there. Students must be enrolled in 9 credits total for tuition benefit to post, but we will only pay for the grad credits. However, repeated courses and undergrad courses can count towards the total. Then we see the percentage of the benefit, 0% benefit, which means right above that to the right, tuition reduction, 0, because no benefit has been posted. Then we see over here, really importantly, total eligible term count. That is how many semesters of tuition benefit that student is eligible for and how many they have utilized. And then the cumulative graduate credits, which is most important if you have RAs. RAs who meet or exceed 84 graduate credit hours cumulative at the University of Utah will no longer be eligible for non-resident waiver. And we have a slide on that coming up. And then lastly, signed yes or no. And if they signed, you see a date there. If it says no, follow up with the student. These are the common error messages. This is not a comprehensive list, but these are the most common. No RA job 5,000 funds. So you have a student who's an RA, but their payroll is not coming off a project. No TA job code. You've entered a student as a TA, but there's no TA job on that student's record. Insufficient credit hours. Student is not in 9 total credits. 84 hours exceeded. This is for RAs. TBP term count exceeded. Student has utilized more terms of eligibility, has no more terms of eligibility remaining. And then override eligible. So if a student requires an override for whatever reason, you'll see override eligible. That means that the override has already been processed and you can go ahead and disregard those error messages. Tuition billing. So the tuition is assessed not by my office. I do get that question a lot. I do not post the tuition. This is done by the tuition office or the Office of Income Accounting. Students are billed according to their residency status. This is a big myth that we've been dealing with tuition benefit. There's an understanding out there that students who are on tuition benefit will not be charged non-resident waiver. That is incorrect. Students will be charged the tuition according to their residency status. So if they are non-resident or non-resident domestic or international, they will be charged non-resident tuition. However, eligible domestic, non-resident, and international students will then have an additional non-resident waiver through tuition benefit applied to the tuition bill. So that's an important distinction to have there. Dissertation credit billing reduction. So if you have a PhD student who is enrolled in dissertation credits in the catalog range of 79.70 to 79.89, their tuition will be assessed at approximately, after the 0-hour fee, 1/3 the regular rate of tuition. This is only for 79.70 to 79.89. Graduate tuition is assessed by course, not by total credit hours enrolled. So if you have a student who's in 6 hours of dissertation and 3 hours of coursework, then you're going to have a mix of reduced with regular tuition billing mixed together. So if you are budgeting, this student is in their last semester and we only have so much money, this is enough money for 9 credits of dissertation hours, you need to make sure that it is understood that by the PI, by the committee, by the grad advisor, that additional coursework outside of 7970 to 7989 will charge more per credit than the dissertation credits will. Tuition benefit covers resident tuition and mandatory fees up to 12 graduate credits. During the summer is up to 6 graduate credits as eligible, as well as mandatory fees. And then the non-resident waiver where applicable and eligible. What tuition benefit does not cover: differential tuition, fees outside of mandatory fees in undergraduate courses, repeated courses outside those required by curriculum. So by the degree curriculum plan, the student must take 9 credits of 7970. Okay, that's okay to be repeated. But if a student gets a less than satisfactory grade in a class and for the student's academic performance plan, you require that the student retake it for a better grade, that does not count. You want a student to retake a methodology course when they're working on their research, just to refresh so they're better equipped at that moment to do their research. That's fine. Tuition benefit will not cover that. Okay, graduate credits exceeding 12. So 12.5, that 0.5 and higher is on the student, or the department can pay that by way of a scholarship. Non-credit or continuing education courses, withdrawn courses, audited courses, international student fees, and for RAs who have reached or exceeded 84 cumulative graduate credits, we will not cover the non-resident waiver, and that is per state statute. And here's a little bit more about the 84 credit hour rule. Students who are supported as an RA, which means that they're on the 9314 job code, their payroll is coming off a project, off a grant. When a student is an RA concurrent at the same time that they are in a semester where they have either met or exceeded 84 cumulative graduate credits, the student will, from that point forward, be responsible for the non-resident portion of their tuition. Students who are impacted by this, but they are only in dissertation enrollment, they can enroll in 9 credits, no more, no less, and they will be at the resident rate. And departments choosing to cover non-resident charges may do so through scholarship administration on a scholarship. A question I get every year on this, well, I was an RA at the beginning of my PhD, but now I'm a GF or TA. Do I still have my non-resident portion covered or not? Yes, because at this moment you are not an RA. I've reached this 84 credit hours by my GF. Do I have to pay back the non-resident portion in previous semesters? No. It's just that semester where we look at it. And again, just as a refresher, minimum support requirement in order to get a certain percentage of tuition benefit on that tuition bill, 100%, 75, or 50% are these amounts. Financial support requirements. So that minimum support that we illustrated here, assistantship wages will only count during the proper semester. So fall is August 16th through December 31st, which is 9 pay periods. I sometimes get questions of, well, my student is starting their job early on August 1st or July 15th. So I can just spread that 83.55 from July 15th to December 31st? No. The student can absolutely start their job early. We will simply not be counting wages towards that fall tuition benefit support requirement until August 16th. And then it cuts off on December 31st, and then the same with the following semesters. Fellowships, GFs, will only be counted when they are dispersed through scholarship administration during the proper semester. So fall support, fall semester. And it must be on a graduate fellowship item type. And then stipends, so trainees, where you are required to pay monthly stipends. This is paid through AP during the semester and on an SF EPR. Students participating in tuition benefit, and this does include ex-TBP, must be a matriculated graduate student. They must be in good academic standing within the program, and they must be enrolled in a minimum of 9 credits fall and spring and 3 during the summer. Tuition benefit will not disperse if these requirements are not met. The 9 credit enrollment, again, we will cover 9 to 12 graduate credits. Students enrolled in less will not have tuition benefit. Students in more than 12 graduate credits, they will simply need to pay the excess of those charges. Tuition benefit, as mentioned, does not cover undergraduate courses or repeated courses outside of those that are officially required by the program. However, repeated and undergraduate can count towards the 9 credit minimum. Repeated classes, as mentioned. So thesis and dissertation, project completion, independent study, credits that are required to be repeated can be repeated. Outside of that, if you want students to take quantitative research methodology, and then you want them to take it again and again just because they're working on their data collection and data analysis and you want it to be fresh in their mind, we'll pay for that once every ensuing time. The student will be responsible for that, or the department can pay that by way of scholarship administration. Academic year limits. Academic year is defined as fall, spring, summer. If a student is supported on tuition benefit fall and spring, their academic year total is 24 credits. And so if you have a student who is being supported on tuition benefit during the summer, they have 24 credits over fall, spring, summer. But if your student is only on tuition benefit fall or spring, then that 1 semester plus summer, the total is 12. So if you have a student who is on tuition benefit the entire academic year, fall, spring, summer, but they use 12 credits during the fall, 12 during the spring, they will have 0 credits eligible during the summer. So this is a good time to have those conversations internally about planning ahead. Tuition benefit will honor reduced enrollment accommodations only when they are approved by the Center for Disability and Access. No other accommodations will be granted. So this is a growing or a continual issue that we're dealing with on campus. If a student has an accommodation for a mental or physical health concern, that is to go through Center for Disability and Access. Professors should not be making those accommodations. That should be going through CDA, who are the professionals in that area to assess a student's need for various accommodations, including, but not limited to, reduced enrollment. This is where a CDA might say, due to your specific concern, mental health, physical health, which includes pregnancy, 5 credits is going to be counted as full-time for you. We get that letter from Center for Disability and Access, provided that the student says, I'm on tuition benefit. They know to reach out to me and they will say 5 credits is full-time. I will do an override, provided the student is in 5 credits. So if you have students who have concerns, please have them reach out to CDA. This is also something good if it's not in your, if this is not in your faculty's syllabus for the semester, for every class that they teach, to have a notation in there about enrollment and course accommodations, as well as testing accommodations, et cetera, go through CDA. Withdrawn courses. Colloquially on campus, we use withdraw and drop interchangeably. That does not work with tuition benefit. There's a hard line between drop and withdraw. Drop is during the add drop period up to the add drop deadline, which is tuition deadline, when a student adds or removes a class from their active enrollment. A withdraw is what happens when a student removes a class from their active enrollment after the add drop deadline. Okay, so tuition benefit does not cover withdrawn courses for whatever reason. If a student's active enrollment remains at 9 credits or higher, so let's say a student is in 12 credits and then they withdraw from 3. So their active enrollment is still 9 credits. Tuition benefit will cover those 9 credits as normal, and the student will be responsible for the withdrawn course. If the student has their active enrollment fall below 9 credits, then they will lose tuition benefit completely and be responsible for the entirety of their tuition bill, including the withdrawn course. If your student has extenuating circumstances, such as I had a death of a parent, I came down with COVID during the middle of the semester and I was out of commission and what have you, and I can't finish all my courses because I fell behind, or whatever the reason may be. If there's an extenuating circumstance, the student can go to the office of the registrar and petition for a retroactive drop. So that is where the class would be removed and there would be, it'd be considered a drop. Then they can petition in the Office of Income Accounting for a remission of that withdraw tuition. So that would be the course is not on their transcript, no W, and no charges for that. However, that does need to happen during the semester, especially if you want the tuition charge removed, has to be done during the semester. Some considerations for your fellowship offer letters and your assistantship contracts. And this is important for your admissions letter if you are offering tuition benefit in your admission letters. If a student is on an assistantship, their job duties do need to be outlined and the expectation to carry out those duties with satisfactory performance. Expectations for enrollment and academic performance to remain in good standing with the program, tuition benefit, and the university should be outlined. This can include milestones that may be expected of a student to make progress and remain in good standing. As mentioned, you can't hold a fellow to job duties because they are not on payroll, they are not employees, but you can hold that fellow to academic performance and milestones in order to maintain a fellowship. That is perfectly within your right to do so. If an assistantship or fellowship is contingent on good standing, that does need to be stated there as well, such as if your student needs to remain in your program and be passing their classes in order to be a TA in your program, state that. If assistantship requires set hours, such as teaching a class, leading a lab, etc., spell that out as best as you are able to. Fellowship offer letters and assistantship contracts are just that. They are a contract between that student and the university, and that can create risk and liability for the university depending on what is in that contract or the absence of a contract. So if performance stipulations are not outlined in a contract, so if you do not say, as a TA, you must earn 83.55 in order to maintain 100% benefit. So if you quit your job or lose your job in the middle of the semester and you do not meet that 83.55, your tuition benefit may be reduced. If you tell a student, hey, you're getting 100% benefit, but there are no stipulations tied to that, and you fire your TA during the middle of the semester, you may be responsible for making sure that student somehow has 100% of their tuition covered. And there are various ways that you can do that. Otherwise, that student can bring litigation, and students have done that, and the students win because if you've not outlined these stipulations, you are responsible for them. And don't leave anything to assumption. This is extremely important, and I want to reiterate this as much as I have to here. If you are telling a student that they're having tuition coverage, but you are only covering tuition benefit, and that student is still going to be responsible for differentials, lab and program fees, international student surcharge, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, tell the student what they are responsible for. We see this across the industry, and we do see this on this campus, where a student comes in, let's say as a grad fellow, they get their refund check of their entire fellowship, and then they say, okay, I'm going to spend that on prepaying my rent, buying my books, et cetera, et cetera. And then they have to add another class for whatever reason, and it has a $700 differential. Well, hey, I have 100, my tuition is being covered by the department. I'm told that. Oh, but the department only means 100% tuition benefit, but not differentials. That student didn't know. I need to hold $700 out to pay this bill. So if a student is going to have a cost that is expected of them to pay, which also includes the 20% G-SHIP premium, Outline this for the student so they know what they are getting into and they can make financial arrangements as necessary. Petitions. Petitions may be submitted on behalf of a student by a department chair, director of grad studies, tuition benefit coordinator, a grad advisor, etc. Petitions should not, relating to tuition benefit, should not be submitted by a student. If I receive a petition by a student, I send it to the tuition benefit coordinator or the director of grad studies and say, if you support this, if you have the means to support this petition, you may do so on the student's behalf. Exceptions considered for personal emergencies such as illness or extenuating family circumstance, please bring those forward. Petitions should be sent to tuitionbenefit@gradschool.utah.edu. This includes the petition from GR studying outside of their academic area. COVID petitions, on the other hand, have a separate portal to go through where you will upload the necessary documents. That can be found at gradschool.utah.edu. Under tuition benefit program, you'll see a tile that indicates COVID petition. To be eligible for tuition benefit petitions, the student must be in good standing in their academic program and with the university. There must be a committee formed, and that committee must be entered into graduate tracking. Grad tracking also must be up to date. The committee must be entered and approved. The program of study must be entered and approved by the committee. Qualifying exams, comprehensive exams must be entered in, and it must be marked passed or passed with revision. Completion of other milestones as required by degree program to be in good standing. That is very important there as well. If tuition benefit extension is granted, the department is still responsible for providing minimum required support. So a petition being approved does not mean that we're just going to go ahead and cover tuition, no questions asked. Student still has to meet minimum support requirements by the department, assistantship and or fellowship. And you must have remaining allocation to cover the resident tuition and mandatory fees through TA, GT, GR, GF, or through F&A. Alternatives to a petition for tuition benefit extension, so adding additional terms. The department can put the student on extended tuition benefit, whether that's through an activity or for an RA, for example, using your reimbursed overhead. Other options may be to have the student register for minimum credit hours necessary for continuous registration. So 1 credit, and then they can pay directly for that 1 credit. Or if your student is international, if they have student loans or health insurance eligibility concerns, 3 credits is the minimum. Okay, so we do have 2 upcoming workshops. Grad school fellowship opportunities, which will be in the middle of July. This is for your department to be acquainted with what opportunities are available, the requirements, such as for the UTA and the GRF, as well as some other opportunities. This is not an info session for students. So this is for directors of grad studies, for grad advisors, department chairs, as they choose to attend. Again, not for students. It's for you to learn more about it so you can advise your students appropriately. And then August 3rd is just going to be an open Q&A for tuition benefits and graduate fellowships as administered through the University of Utah Graduate School. So you can send in your questions ahead of time. I will send out a call for questions and we can answer those as necessary. If you have a question, chances are someone else will. So come and ask your question, send your question in ahead of time. This is going to be leading up to the fall start. So this will be a good opportunity as you are in the middle of entering and managing your fall tuition benefit to come and bring your concerns to everyone. As always, with any questions or concerns, please reach out to me in my office. Tuition benefit at gradschool.utah.edu is the ideal place for your concerns to be sent. During peak busy times, such as the beginning of a semester or when we are finaling a semester, or when we have staff outages, such as when I'm on vacation or Jen Ehlers is on vacation, we monitor tuition benefit inbox probably more than we do our personal inbox when it comes to tuition benefit concerns. So that will be the fastest way to email for for tuition benefit concerns to be addressed. Okay, and now this is your time for questions and concerns. You can use the raise hand feature, or you can drop your concerns into the chat box, either for everyone to see, or you can send them to me personally if you do want to remain anonymous with your questions. Andrea Rohr, thank you so much for coming and for your concern here. Could the grad school provide a checklist of scenarios that will or will not be covered in offer letter? This is a fantastic suggestion. I am trying to work with I am the grad school, trying to work with general counsel on coming up with an appropriate boilerplate text. We are not there at this time, but I can absolutely put together a checklist of things that are important to cover in fellowship offer letters, as well as assistantship contracts. Thank you so much for the suggestion. I will be working on that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Katie, thank you. Oh, that would be helpful. Absolutely. And of course, I say this regularly during the year. I'll say this again here. We're not on the front line. I have been a grad advisor in your shoes at another university, but I do not work as the tuition benefit coordinator on the front line like you are today. I'm on the back end overseeing the policy and the logistics of the operation. So if you have a concern that with our system and how the system could be more efficiently for you, let us know and we can take that into consideration and work with our partners for our long-term growth. If there's a resource that would be helpful for you, such as a how-to guide, or like Andrea brought up, a checklist sort of document that would be helpful for you as you do your tuition benefit work or as you work with your director of grad studies, please let me know what that is and we can work on that, because we're not on the front line. We're not in the trenches. You are. So if you have a need, please communicate that to us. That will help us provide the resources that you need and help you perform your job more efficiently and more effectively. Andrea, you're on.
Sorry, another question. So to your point about the agreements between one department and another across campus, is there also boilerplate language for that on several ends? One in the communication between a department and another unit on campus, so that we can remove the emotional and the financial angst that people have around that? And then second, is there an online portal for submitting that information to you all, so that it's not death by duck bites where you're getting email after email after email?
Right. So are you talking about the GRs working outside of their academic unit?
Yes.
Okay. So we have largely left the agreement between academic home department and the employment department to each area. Your college is a good example. ELP, in their partnership with student development and housing, we've largely left that to departments to manage as they see fit. I can definitely come up with, I can try to come up with a boilerplate on that would probably be good to go through general counsel as well. Absolutely. And then as far as getting the approval, we don't have that on the portal yet, but that is something that I'm working to get onto a portal. Long term here, anything that you need to submit, any type of petition or such, we're trying to have a portal form so that it's all in one place and you only have to go to one place rather than email. But for the time being, it's going to be email. But I do want to point out that it is informal. It doesn't need to be on letterhead, PDF signed. It can just be Jane Doe is working in this department. Here's her job duties, and here is how it connects to their master's or PhD.
So could we do just even a general one? So several of our departments, for example, have students that are almost grouped in particular locations. If they all have similar job duties and it's connected to their programs in similar ways, could we do just a more general statement and then bullet the students for that?
Absolutely. I do have some areas that do that, where a number of students will be working in one area. College of Social Work is always my example with this. They'll have students who are working in the counseling center or the Women's Resource Center or other areas on campus where their job duties might be a little bit different. They might be doing one-on-one counseling. They might be doing evaluations, etc. So their job duties may vary a little, but it's all pretty much overall the same job, and it's all the same curricular connection. So if you have, for example, students who are, a gaggle of students, I'm sure gaggle is the group noun for students who are working in housing, but some are going to be on the res ed side of it. Some are going to be more on the resident hall director side of this. Yeah, you can put that all into one thing because the jobs are related, and then there's a curricular connection. So keep it simple. If I need more information, I can ask for it, but let's keep it simple for everyone.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Laura, thank you so much. Is it possible to increase the max credits to 13 or 14 for students starting in the spring? It's very difficult for our required curriculum for students to have only 9 credits their first semester. Okay, so we will cover up to 12 credits a semester, but anything over that is university policy with how we manage tuition benefit. And it might actually be state of Utah legislation through this State Board of Higher Education, the limitation at 12 credits. So the 12 credit max per semester, per fall and spring semester, that is something that I do not have wiggle room on. A department can say 14 credits, and then we'll use a scholarship through scholarship administration to cover the overage. But other than that, tuition benefit doesn't really have any sort of wiggle room with that.
So actually, I'm talking about the 12 credit max for the students who are on just a partial year tuition benefit. So if we have students who start in the spring,
Mhm.
they need to take at least about 9.5 to 11 credit hours in spring, which would be covered, but then they're not covered in the summer. And that's a big roadblock if they can't, do anything in the summer on the tuition benefit.
Right.
And so it'd be great if they could bump up that yearly max to 13 or 14 for those partial year students on tuition benefit.
Yeah, I think that's where our limitation is coming in. I can definitely take this to the dean and have a conversation about that. I'm pretty sure his comment will be use extended tuition benefit during the summer. But I can absolutely take that. If you have if you want to draw that up in a little bit more specific concern, and numbers help. So if you have this isn't just one student, this is a growing number of students that this is affecting every year, go ahead and put that in a quick email to me with this description, and I can take it to the dean.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions, concerns relating to tuition benefit? Corey, you're on the air, Corey.
Morning. Can you say one more time how income accounting bills tuition and then the waiver is applied? Will you just say that one more time?
Okay, so the student will be billed tuition per course based on their residency status as well as the enrollment. So, and I say that largely the enrollment based on are they a PhD in dissertation versus regular everything else. So if they're a resident, they'll be billed at the resident rate. If they're non-resident, they'll be billed at the non-resident rate. And then tuition benefit is applied. And the non-resident waiver goes on first, and then the resident tuition and mandatory fees happen the next day. So the posting of tuition is a 2-day process if your student is non-resident and they have a non-resident waiver. Is that what you're asking, Corey?
Sorry, it's that process that's confusing to me. Like when a student will send me a screenshot of their bill and I can't quite sort it out.
Yeah, and then
I mean, I know I can always ask, but I just that doesn't stick with me.
Yeah, and then also enrollment is a big issue there too, especially leading up to tuition deadline. Add drop is still effective. Students are adding and dropping classes sometimes left and right. They are making those changes. It does take 2 processing cycles for the enrollment to fully populate with the tuition office. So if your student is in 9 credits today, and then they are in 12 credits tomorrow, their tuition bill will increase to reflect charges of 12 credits, but it'll take 2 processing cycles for the additional 3 credits of tuition benefit to be applied. So this is why this is a good reminder. Thank you, Corey. This is a good reminder of why it's important to enter everything as early as possible, and then to run your reports and talk with your, if you're not the grad advisors, to talk with your grad advisors to make sure your students are being enrolled as early as possible. 6 weeks beforehand, are not even tuition bills yet generated. So the idea here is your students will be registered, then tuition bills will be generated in early August. And then I try for the Wednesday or Tuesday prior to the first day of school, we'll have our first tuition benefit run. And ideally at that point, everything will go on, no problem at all. Of course, I'm thinking of the Walgreens commercials. That's a place called perfect. This is reality. That does not always happen, but that's why we want to work towards that ideal, is because it does mitigate a lot of these confusing factors for a student. What sometimes ends up happening though is I go in, when you come to me with these, this isn't covered, what's going on, I go into the back end, I can see the enrollment dates, and I just say, I'll take care of it, when really I just go and check on it 2 days later and I see it's covered. So just always let your students know, okay, thank you so much. Tuition benefit is a daily processing thing. It's not real time. You change your enrollment at 12 noon, it'll be covered at 12 noon. It does take processing time, just like with scholarships and financial aid as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions or concerns? Okay, well, with that, I'll go ahead and stop the recording. As mentioned, this will get up on our website with the slides, and we still need to get last week's G-SHIP up as well. And I'll send out an email once we get both of those up so you can refer back to it and share as necessary within your department. Feel free to share the slides. Feel free to share the videos with your colleagues and your department leadership as necessary. I will be staying on in case anyone has questions or concerns that you want to talk off a recording and without a full group here. And with that, thank you so much for joining. I'll see you in the middle of July as we discuss fellowship opportunities. Again, that's going to be for staff and your Director of Grad Studies, not for students. And anything in the meantime, just drop us an email. Have a great day.